Anyway, we will still continue with our talks. Please try to understand. I tried to speak comprehensively. Aloud, I cannot help you. Only Ku can help you, and your ear doctor can help you. You still cannot understand, not my fault. Some people cannot understand my talk. They say, what I talk is general. For most people. Even then, not everybody can understand my talk, especially all of it, because it's meant for a wide group or range of people. If you can understand my past talks, you're not too bad. No? Can you understand my talks in the past few talks? Yeah? You know? Some Chinese speaking tak boleh dengar, faham. Because they are sepusut people. Cannot be helped. I cannot be translating. Some kota tinggi was very tiring for me. English I translate into Chinese, I translate to Hokkien. And then 1 hour talk become only 20 minutes talk. It's not correct, not fair. They have to find their own translators. That's why in the KT talks, when I spoke in English. There are certain Italians or Czechs that come, they don't understand English. So they bring their own translator, and after the talk, the translator will repeat the talk to them in their language. So that's the way. Yeah? Even if I get a translator into Chinese, from 1 hour you get only half an hour talk. Tak cukup. Okay. It's not fair, because the retreat is speaking in English. My Chinese is 5:30. Or at best 3 suku. So anyway, we go to the next talk. In the past few talks, I already given you certain basic things that you have to know to gain a definite practice setting in the practice of vipassana. I'm not going to repeat it. Like what is momentary concentration, what is Paramata Dhamma, and so on. And I even talk a bit about non-self, what it is. Now you progress in vipassana a bit deeper, you go into the knowledge, the second internal knowledge of conditionality, paccaya parikaha. Our mind is related to matter, our matter is related to mind, our mind is related to mind, our matter is related to matter, our mind is related to mind and matter, our mind and matter is related to mind and matter. All this can end up quite complicated. But we're dealing with experiences. not theory. Some people get the experience, but they cannot know it intellectually because it's experiential. There's experiential knowledge. There's theoretical knowledge. There's empirical knowledge. There's inferential knowledge. Yeah? So, different types. You don't understand this, never mind. We hope you will sooner or later. Hopefully sooner, not later. But it's better late than never. I'm playing with the English words. You say mind is related to matter, matter is related to mind. Yes, understand? Correct? You have intention, there won't be any walking. If no walking, there won't. It's because of mind that causes the arise, right? Must be intention before you stand up. Yeah? And so, but say, I don't have intention, but I still stand up. That's not possible. You don't have, the intention must be there. This intention, in the terms of experience, is not just because I want to, but because of the mental impulse, also included under intention. So the English word is insufficient. But in terms of experience, it is clear. There's this mental part, then you start walking. So, to go in, and for that to be experienced clearly and to be understood, you need to know clearly mind and matter. Yeah? Matter is materiality, rupa, dhamma, 4 elements, etc., 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 28 rupa in terms of theory. Huh? Okay? Understand? Chinese we say sarapa, ersapa, sarpa. So, now, mind is what? Chinese Mingfat, mentality. Mentality of the 5 aggregates, 4 of them. The feelings, what else? Perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Yeah? The main thing of these 4 will be consciousness. Okay? It's just like if the consciousness is water, the waves are the tree. So you can watch the consciousness, you watch the other tree. You watch the other tree, you will not watch the consciousness fully, comprehensively. Okay? So that's why tonight the next talk will be on meditation of consciousness, Cittanupassana. Only when you have done Cittanupassana, experienced Cittanupassana, and understood Cittanupassana to some degree, then the second insight knowledge can be understood or explained more precisely. Some people say you must recollect how many past lives before you get a second knowledge. What is this? Past life is concept. What should be experienced more clearly would be the consciousness. So that's why to go more efficiently, effectively into the higher levels of insight, some appreciable degree of consciousness has to be done. Otherwise you can still do it based on Kayanupassana, but no, slowly, like the Burmese side I'll give you. Why I don't have progress? They say slowly. I would say you've not done enough Chittanupassana. So, we talk a bit on Chittanupassana. Because the main object in Chittanupassana, mindfulness of consciousness, is the consciousness itself. Because the consciousness is the object of Chittanupassana. So the question is, what is consciousness? We ask our friend here, what is consciousness? Can you watch consciousness? Can. Then somebody will ask you, what is watching the consciousness? Can consciousness watch the consciousness? Can or not? Can. Then there's two consciousness. These people are asking too much. That's too much. You ask too much, you don't understand. You only create more problems for yourself. The best answer you can get, you know what's pain? You ask what is consciousness? Is it consciousness watching consciousness? You don't know what is pain. Yeah, that's pain, yes. No need to ask too much. Experience. Which comes first, experience or theory? Experience comes before theory. The Buddha's theory, Dhamma, comes from direct experience. The Abhidhamma comes from direct experience. You read a book, you think this is conscious. That's thinking, that's not direct experience. You're not wrong, but it's still very conceptual. Okay? So what is consciousness? A simple word would be knowing. Knowing. How say knowing in Bahasa? Tahu. Tahu. You make a noun of the tahu, becomes what? Paham. Paham is understanding. It's a bit different. No? If you put pengetahuan, it's something else. It becomes knowledge. So you see, words are very tricky because they are concepts. One word can mean more than one thing. So which one? When I was trying to learn Burmese, there's one word with the same tone, with the same writing has opposite meanings. So how? Difficult. Even English also, the same word can have different meanings. Yeah? So the important thing is experience. And what is pain? Give you one slap, that's pain. There's no question about it. Because it's direct experience. So for simplicity, we must say something, so we say knowing. Is that knowing? Of course there's knowing, otherwise you don't know anything. Right? Can you watch the knowing? Can you? What's your name? What Ling is it? Your name? What name? Look what? Okay, Ling. Can you watch the knowing? Is that the knowing? Do you know anything now? So do you know what's the know? And you watch the knowing. The knowing is the consciousness. Very simple. Don't ask how you know. Don't ask what is knowing, who is knowing, and just the knowing. And the mindfulness is there, the presence, to know correctly what is knowing as an experience. Simple example, you pinch yourself, chubit. You try, pinch yourself, feel the pain, pain. You don't ask who is watching the pain. You don't ask why the pain. Just be mindful and be present and observe the experience and observe the pain. Then you are watching mindfully pain. So instead of the pain, you have the knowing. The I am knowing, and then different. You should have tamba garam. What type of pain? Pain of the hand, you tamba garam lagi. Just experience that. Okay? Say, my hand is painful, there's already you tamba garam. Okay? When you watch feeling is different thing. When I ask somebody to watch the knowing, and then I'm watching the feeling. Is feeling the mind? Bukan. Feeling is mental state, it's not mind. It's mental phenomena but not consciousness. Okay? So mind is the knowing. To make it simple and more concrete, we say the knowing mind. That one I already tambah sikit. Knowing and the mind. But the knowing is the mind. The idea is to note the knowing mind or the knowing mindfully. Okay? So the knowing mind, when you try to watch it like that, is the consciousness. It's mindful or not, there's a different matter, But the watching must be mindful. Okay? Okay, mindful, you say knowing. All right? Simple, So this is the knowing mind. Now the mind that you watch is the object. You know object, aramana. When you watch Mr. Ong Teo Eng, can you watch Mr. Ong Teo Eng? Ong Teo Eng, you not? Can you see him? Yeah. Can or not? So Ong Teo Eng is the object of your mind. Hopefully your mindfulness. So Ong Teo Eng is the object of your mindfulness. Alright? Okay? But it's object, is Ong Teo Eng your mind? Is Ong Teo Eng your mind? No, of course not. Ong Teo Eng mind, that's susah for you. You start talking and looking like Ong Teo Eng. When Ong Teo Eng dies, you also die. It's not your mind, it's the object of your mind. So you watch consciousness as an object, knowing. It's a knowing the mind. It's knowing the mind. Knowing is object. The object and mind are two different things. Right? Object and mind are two different things. It's object, it's a mind. The object you watch is the mind, yes, but it is not the object in the present moment. The present object, the present consciousness cannot know itself. Something like, can you see yourself? You cannot. Your eyes are in front. Even your eyes are at the back also, you cannot see yourself. Can you see yourself? Mirror is already later already. Is the mirror yourself? Mirror is not yourself. Mirror is just a reflection. So you sad, you look at the mirror, so sad. Be happy, don't be sad. But you're still looking sad. Why? Because that's a reflection. Correct, no? We're talking of experience of reality in vipassana. Experience of consciousness as a reality in vipassana. And consciousness is clearest when it is in the present, here and now, timeless. Okay? Alright? So don't worry about it, just be mindful. Knowing. You may be experiencing the immediate past, not the immediate present. But it's okay. You're very close to the reality as much as possible. When you see clearly, your mind goes closer and closer and closer to reality, looking. Like a face, now you look at the mirror, look closer. Bong. Why? Because impermanent. The object disappears. Because once you get so close and you see the reality, it's no longer there, it disappears. And understand? Okay, good. This is a bit difficult to understand. You need some degree of insight. But never mind, you start by watching the knowing mind. When you start watching the knowing mind, you get closer and closer to the knowing mind. You get actually more and more to the present reality. And so when you closer and closer, you actually get close to the present reality, which the object is the past consciousness. And so it disappears because it's not there in the first place. But it is capable of bringing you closer and closer to the actual reality. Faham tak? Similarly, when the earth element, wind element, the rupa, same principle. Except the rupa element can be present. And the mind consciousness can be both be present. But when you get closer and closer to the actual present reality, it disappears. Because there's no present, there's just the concept of time. External experience reality, you have to transcend the concept of time. The only difference is that when you're watching rupa, like earth element, wind element, we say they can be both present at the same time. But when you get closest to the actual reality, it disappears. I say, why Abhidhamma say like that? Your theory of Abhidhamma is not based on experience. It's based on intellectual extrapolations. You know, some people very into Abhidhamma, ask them this, they don't understand. The people tell them, we can have vipassana jhanas, cannot, because they don't have the experience. Because when you watch rising, falling, it is still conceptual. The change you watch, changing, rising, falling, is a flux, viparinama dhamma. It's not anicca. Anicca, impermanence, the moment you see it, it's not there anymore. There's anicca. There's true face of reality. Okay? So don't worry, the first you get to hold on to the knowing mind first. Just like we don't think about too much of the earth, water, fire, element and all the processes. You follow the rising falling first, and you get concentration, then you can go closer. You cannot get close, how are you going to see? So you must hold on to something. So the rising falling, as I said before, is a physical experience. There is a concept there, but this rising falling concept is very close to the actual elements and the actual phenomena that can be experienced in the present. Yeah, it's better than you watching something. Buddha. Buddha. How many times is the sound Buddha attached to the concept of the Buddha? The Paramattha Dhamma is not so close, further away. You go further, it says, money come. So what happens? Your concept is holding on to money. What's money? Wang la, duit. So can you meditate and concentrate on money come? You can. You can concentrate on the money. But most probably you won't have mindfulness, you probably have craving instead. So even in the beginning, walking, stepping, touching, you're not watching the Paramattha directly, watching something close to it. And when you're mindful and you can follow longer, closer, like the cat following the mouse. When you grab the mouse, what is the mouse? Nothing. It's just an illusion. Then you know this mouse is an illusion. But because the craving is too strong, every time another mouse comes, he starts chasing, But because he's so used to eating the mouse, chasing after the mouse. So the mouse is the object. The mind and the object are interrelated. The mind comes with the object comes with the mind. But don't worry too much about that, you just watch the knowing mind first. This is the knowing mind. So that consciousness, the characteristic of knowing, becomes the object of mindfulness. It's an object. It's not really the reality in a deep sense, Paramattha in the deeper sense. It's a general surface. But you start there, so you know knowing mind. Because when you watch the knowing mind, what happens? Your knowing mind changes. It's not always the same. You say it's conditioned. It changes. Sometimes brighter, sometimes lighter, sometimes, and so on. There are many interconnected phases. Okay? Like certain people, they have different faces. Who can change his face? A magician may be able to change his face. Put on a mask. Hello. Put on a mask. Hello, I'm Ong Teo Eng. Put on a mask. Hello, I'm Tan Guo Kiong, Gyok Kiong. Hello, I'm U Kia Kut. Hello. It changes. Because it's so fast, you cannot identify. I remember once I was watching a Chinese opera when I was in China. They showed a lot of devas presenting presents to the Hailong Wang, the Dragon King. So take here one present, take here one present, take one. Suppose you cannot see lah, but I can see because this king which is giving presents to the Dragon King is getting slimmer and slimmer. Because you put all inside the backside there, so you take one, so it becomes thinner and thinner. Yeah, because you watch more closely. So you watch more closely, what you experience in the first place is not so, it's only real to a certain extent. Even though at that moment you don't have much concepts, but still there are a little bit of concepts there, and you watch it closer and closer. When you watch closer and closer, you get it closer and closer to the reality. The consciousness as an object. Now, somebody asked me this, I repeat this again from the last talk in December. Mahasi did talk about watching consciousness. I said, never talk about watching consciousness, nobody tell me. Mahasi in his book did tell about watching consciousness. 3 ways. Consciousness as a whole. How you translate into Bahasa, consciousness as a whole. Watch consciousness as a whole. How you say mind? Is it? Mind, how you say mind in Bahasa? Minat. Minda. That sounds translated from English, mind, Minda. Yeah, as a whole. Keseluruhan. The second is mind as a pair. Pasang. Then mind is a series. Series, television series. Television series. So there's 3. Okay? So I give you an idea of the mind. Mind as a whole. Means the whole mind. So mind as a pair. It means the mind doesn't come alone, it's conditioned. So it comes with another object. It may be the object, and it may be another mental state. Okay? That's watching closer. It grows closer, then it says, watching mind in a series. There's one mind follow another mind. One in the front, like a train. The mind in a series. So there are actually these 3 types of watching the mind, which is actually 3 levels of watching the mind. The first is still watching the mind as a whole, watching mind as mind, knowing as knowing. Okay? So you see, in the very first place, first to be able to know that, you must be mindful. Not mindful, no talk. Like in the world, say no money, no talk. In meditation, no mindfulness, no talk. Knowing. Then knowing is not unless you know the mind something, but you must know it very clearly. Know it as close as possible to the present reality. So you watch the mind. Okay? And then from there you can go close and you see anatta. The consciousness is anatta. And from anatta you see again and again, and you see the consciousness is conditioned. And the consciousness has the is attributed to the three universal characteristics: impermanence, suffering, non-self. So the second is connected. The first two is still considered direct experience. The second is direct in the sense of inferential knowledge. And this one I have to explain later. So we come back to the question. Consciousness is the knowing mind. Because there was some confusion. To be clear, in case that you also have that confusion. Now you see what happens is the mind knows the object through 6 doors, salayatana. What are the 6 doors? 6 pintu. Mata, telinga, hidung, what? Tongue is what? Lidah and body, badan, and another one is mind door. Of course, when you say eye door, it doesn't mean the flesh eye. Ear door doesn't mean the conceptual ear. It's the rupa, the receptivity of materiality that can receive sensitivity to certain objects. Okay? It tends towards abstract, but it can be experienced if you are sharp enough, mindful enough, and trained enough. Okay? When you see the eye object, what you experience is the eye object. Do you see the eye base? It's there, but you don't see it. Although it's considered still gross or aurica. When you hear the sound, object is the sound. Can you hear the ear base? No. The hearing hears the sound, not the ear base. Understand? The hearing hears the sound, not the ear base. Correct? Can you hear the ear base? Generally no. Unless you're very sharp. Then, so we say that the ear door, the eye door, is the eye base, where it receives the eye object. The ear base, the eye base must have contact with the eye object before the seeing consciousness can arise. When the seeing consciousness arises, it sees the eye object. Can it see the eyes? Can the seeing consciousness see the eye object before it arises? Cannot. Right? So it's simultaneous. This is called conditioning. Similarly, the ear base is the knows the sound, the ear object, right? So the hearing comes with the ear base. Can hearing come without the ear base? Cannot. You have no ears, how to drink apa? Huh? Like Ong says, his hearing is becoming weak. Why? Because his earbase is getting louder, becoming junky. Okay? But it's still there. Can the hearing cannot come with the earbase, okay? Can you hear the sound without the hearing consciousness? Cannot. If there's no hearing consciousness, you cannot hear any sound. Okay? So you may have the earbase and you may have the sound, but still you may not hear anything. Right? Because his mind is thinking somewhere else. Right? Not necessarily bad. Like be very concentrated on the body object rising, falling. So concentrated when sound comes also you cannot hear. You have the ear base and there's a sound around, but you cannot hear because there's no hearing consciousness. Correct enough? But when you have no ear base, then the hearing consciousness also cannot come out, so you cannot hear any sound, even though there's sound around. Like a person sudah mati. Tell him, mai si lai, ki lai la. He can hear you, he cannot hear you. Because everything, all this five sense thoughts already kaput. If you can still hear them, it's not dead yet. I'll say you do. Okay? The nose base, the tongue base, and the body base. Okay. The body object is known by the body base, through the body base. The nose smell is known to the nose base, and the taste is known to the tongue base. Okay? When we talk of the mind door, it's different. The mind door is the most important. The mind door is not materiality, it's not rupa. The mind door is the consciousness itself. An avenue where the consciousness, a function where the consciousness knows its object. There is what we call the heart base. The mind base is located at the heart base, but they're different. The mind base and the heart base are two different things. And the mind door is different. The mind door is something else. So we are dealing more with the mind door. To understand, you have to go to the Abhidhamma processor, ding ding dong dong, ding ding dong dong. The heart base is a materiality. There's the four elements and so on. Okay? And this heart base is abstract. You cannot see the heart base, you cannot hear the heart base. You cannot smell or taste the heart base. You cannot touch the heart base. You touch. You're touching the body, you're not touching the heart base. The heart base, Hadaya Watu, is a Sukuma Rupa, a subtle materiality which cannot be experienced through the sense thoughts. It can be experienced only through the mind or and it's called a Sukuma, subtle Rupa, very subtle. So unless you're trained to and your mind is sharp and you observe these things, usually it is not. People don't really experience so much unless your concentration and sensitivity is very strong. Anyway, it's not necessary. What is more important, you are mindful at the mind door. And you know you're mindful at the mind door and not at the sense doors. Okay? Just like you want to catch, what do you call it? They say catching the lizard in the anthill. You know the lizard is in the anthill. You go to the anthill and you catch the lizard. The seeing consciousness at the eye door is like that. But the mind door is only in the mind. It's connected with the sense door in some way, but it is not the sense door because it's mind. The sense doors are all rupa, materiality. Understand? The mind door is not materiality. It's mentality. It's the bhavanga citta, life continuum. It's not just a life continuum, it's a certain aspect of the life property that comes with the life continuum. You know life continuum, bhavanga? The life continuum is the consciousness in your deep sleep. The sense of continuity in one life. We say the mind door is the life continuum. Not very specific. Life continuum can act as a mind door. Give an example. For example, if somebody, Kim Fong. Kim Fong is in charge of registering the yogis. Right? Are you in charge of registering the yogis? Secretary? Who is in charge of registering the yogis? Who is interested in registering? Julina. Julina, are you there? Tidak apa, tidak ada. So when she's not here, how can you register yourself? Tak boleh. So let's say this Kim Fong is in charge of registering. Okay? Is she always registering yogis? No. When yogis write up, say, okay, I register you. So the function of Kim Fong works as a registrar as well. Alright? So the Bhavanga Citta acts as the mind door. Understand? The Bhavanga Citta has many functions. One important function is it acts as a mind door. But that is not so important for beginners. Important thing is able to watch the mind door. Because you can watch consciousness directly only at the mind door. You cannot watch it at the ear door, eye door. You can know it indirectly. And if you're used to watching consciousness, you also can watch it. But it's a different thought process. It's not already a hearing thought process, it's already the mind door process. One joined to another. For example, you learn Abhidhamma, you're not hearing, what do you note? You're watching the sound. Sound occurs only at the ear door. But quickly it goes into the mind door. When it goes into the mind door, then it's possible to see the hearing consciousness, because it's already the mind thought. Understand? Whereas certain things, pure consciousness, occur only in the mind door. So what mind door, for example, no? You are dreaming, completely in dreams. You don't hear anything, you don't see anything, you don't feel anything, you're completely in the mind. And that you're the mind door. Right? Correct. Often it's the sense door and run to the mind door, sense door and the mind door. It's okay, but slowly when you watch consciousness more clearly, then you go more to the mind door and you begin to watch the consciousness as a whole properly. Ordinarily, when you practice meditation, you're not knowing, thinking, seeing, hearing, all those things. You are watching consciousness to some extent, not very clear. So you're not seeing, and then immediately seeing, you start thinking about seeing, thinking, and all those things. Are you watching consciousness to some extent? Not really fully yet. When you're watching the consciousness directly, it's just purely at the mind door. So when you watch in a more concentrated matter, and your object mindfulness becomes finer and finer, then no more rising, falling. After that, even all the touch objects become finer, no more. Then finally left is what? Just the mind. Because you don't feel the body, you don't feel the rising, falling. So you feel only the awareness, maybe probably bright and clear. So that's the consciousness, watching the consciousness as a whole in the mind door. This I'm trying to be more precise. So you have to watch consciousness properly. That's the way to do it. Otherwise, you can watch as you're doing, watching, seeing, hearing, smelling, thinking, hearing, sleepy. You're not wrong. That is watching consciousness in the preliminary level. Preliminary level. You will start with the preliminary level anyway. When we get more closer and closer to the actual consciousness, then you watch actually the consciousness as a whole. When you watch the consciousness as a whole clearly, then you see anatta. And from there, you get closer into conditioning. When you see the conditioning clearly, then you watch the consciousness arise and disappear at the same moment with its associated states. For example, you anger, you know the anger. There's the mind and the anger. But when you watch it close to reality, you can see the consciousness and the anger disappear at the same time. You can see the interconnectedness of the mind and the mental states. When you see the object like, for example, hardness, earth element, hardness, and you see hardness very clearly, it means the consciousness has to be there. When the consciousness is there, when you see hardness clearly, Paramattha Dhamma, you see they are both connected, and so the consciousness and the hardness vanish together simultaneously. So you can see they are interconnected very closely. You can see the hardness disappear first, then the consciousness is still there, and then consciousness disappear, hardness not seen properly. You're still watching closer and closer to the realities, but not full understanding yet. the full understanding of the Paramattha, which at the first initial level is called Nyata Parinya, full understanding of the known, that is the object of vipassana meditation. You should have the first insight knowledge and second insight knowledge coming together. Then you have the basis for the third and fourth and fifth insight knowledges, which includes the three unique characteristics in clear, direct experience. No? You do experience this also when you're watching rising and falling, but it tends to be weak. And because it's weak, it's difficult to go higher and higher up. But try and try after many years, after many trials, if you have this you are vipassana prodigy, then okay, enlightened. Otherwise, you keep at it. So you watch consciousness, and you watch consciousness as a whole. When you watch consciousness as a whole, you watch deeper, deeper, and you see inside there are many things. For example, there are many mental states arising. It comes with different objects. You know the variety of consciousness by knowing the variety of the combinations of the mental states and the different types of objects that come and go. No? Of course, when you're meditating, you don't analyze. This I'm talking to you. But through experience and watching consciousness, you obviously can feel them through direct experience. And it's clear only when you see the conditioning. Second is knowledge. Otherwise, you can still see it, but it is not clear enough. And you can still go on and progress. Not that you say you can't, you can. But not so quick lah. Pelan-pelan tunggu. That's why some people have to meditate for many years before they see that. Even I explain to them also, they tak boleh faham. Sudah. I haven't come to the gist of Cittanupassana yet. Just giving you the base. Only 2 more Dhamma talks. So if you understand the base, then the rest, at least you know it theoretically, that it has to be experienced to be clear. Otherwise you think, you conceptualize. It's not wrong, it's the right concept, but it's not the experience. But you have the right concept, when you keep practicing, may one day you may notice that conditioning and that phenomena. Then it establishes a stronger base for the next consecutive insights. Okay. So tonight is very simple. It's just not consciousness is just not the knowing mind. And you can stay with the knowing mind longer, you can see the knowing mind changing. So you watch the knowing mind changing until it disappear. Then start again. Knowing, then disappear. You won't disappear at once, you see it changing, disappear. But you make sure as far as you can, watch it at the mind door. You don't ask complicated questions. When I explain this to somebody, they look at me and says, "You mean I've got to watch the universal mind?" I said, "Please. Already tambah garam. Tambah gula, tambah garam, tambah curry powder." Okay, any questions? able to explain this in Chinese? How? Must get a Chinese translator. Cannot be helped. You can speak only half. Speak 1 hour, only half an hour talk. But the most important is you understand. I think most people here understand English. Maybe a handful. Even then they can understand English to some degree. But when you go to technical terms, then a bit difficult. The last time I went to Kuantan, I asked them to give me a translator. They tabuli cari. They cannot find one proper one. So I have to speak myself. And you know, I speak, my Chinese is tiga suku. You want to be a Chinese translator, Mr. Keng? Huh? You know, you can translate, you can attend many retreats. You boleh, huh? Maybe better than him. Siapa boleh translate Chinese, English to Chinese? Mrs. Ong. Boleh ke? Like, can you translate tonight's talk into Chinese? Well, Chinese also tiga suku. You translate become how many suku tak tahu? Satu suku. How many people here know Chinese? You are. Okay. Who's the best in Chinese? And English? Who? Stop pointing fingers. I know one who can translate very well from Kuching, Ya Cui. Who else can translate well? You're not bad. Huh? I can train. You can translate my Abhidhamma talk, then you can. At least part of the theory. Can Sudmi translate? Huh? Huh? But generally can. She's Chinese educated, isn't it? Is she Chinese educated? Chinese media? Primary school. You also primary school. Mine was IT Dada primary school. I learned only from hearsay. From the translators were listening. Siapa boleh? Nifong definitely boleh. Baba. To Malay maybe. Dia Malay boleh. Bahasa boleh. Okay, no questions, huh? It's internet stop. Idang me punyang asava kaya wahang hotu. Idang me punyang nibbanasa pacayo hotu. Imang no punya bagang sabba satanang dema sa